Hey everyone, and welcome to today's webinar of OfferZen, Setting Standards for Your Technical Assessments. I'm Nick, the Head of Engineering at OfferZen, and I'll be hosting today's webinar. Before we dive into the event, we have some rules of engagement. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, you can post them in the questions tab on the right-hand side. Today's webinar is recorded and it will be shared with you. Finally, you can use the chat tab to add any comments throughout the event. Maybe do so now. Okay, looks like we're doing the thing. Welcome again to everyone that's joined. I'm Nick, and I'll be hosting tonight's event. Just a few quick words about OfferZen. OfferZen is a developer talent marketplace that was founded in Cape Town, South Africa in 2016. Our marketplace helps over 2,000 companies in Africa. Sorry, I just want to check the slides on my side. I'm not changing. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Our marketplace helps over 2,000 companies in Africa and Europe hire curated, job-seeking software developers. Companies on OfferZen can directly reach out to skilled developers with upfront information about the preferred tech stack, salaries, and previous roles, and make the hires in 25 days on average. If you're hiring or you would like to browse the developers currently live on OfferZen, simply hit the I'd like to know more in the poll on screen, and we'll send you a link to check out OfferZen for yourself. We also have a strong focus on community, running events like this, creating content on our blog. We've got some great community events planned, so if you'd like to join one of those upcoming events, please also just select so in the poll. Thank you. In just a few moments, I'll be joined by Dawie and Ilya to discuss setting standards for your technical assessments. So let's bring them onto stage. Please welcome both Dawie and Ilya for us. For the speakers, please share your name, company, a little bit about yourself, and then maybe just share with everyone the lens that you're approaching today's conversation with.
Thanks, Nicholas. So I'll start off. My name is David. I'm from Old Mutual, coming from a customer's lens. I'm actually currently implementing a new tenant acquisition process and assessment process for technical individuals in the organization. And it's quite exciting to share my experience with everybody.
Hey, and I'll pick up from here. So I'm Ilya. I'm the CTO for Codility, coming with about 25 years of experience in IT from various domains, enterprise software, security, telecom, currently based in Berlin. Codility is a leading platform for skill-based technical assessment and skill progression. I'm happy to be here to discuss something that affects the whole tech community. And being in this particular business, I believe that I might be able to provide a little bit more of a service provider position on things and points of view, and also share things that we see with our customers and what do we recommend for them as the best way of going forward. Looking forward for a fruitful discussion.
Thanks, Dawie, Ilya. Today, we'll be covering a few themes. First up is developing standards that align with the team and organizational needs. From there, we'll go over to designing accurate and role-specific technical assessments, onto identifying and addressing inconsistencies in the current technical landscape. And then lastly, we'll talk about the role of AI in technical assessments, which I'm sure everybody's very interested in. And then we'll have some time at the end for some Q&A. So please, everyone, drop some questions in the questions tab, and we'll address those at the end. So first off, again, theme one, developing standards that align with the team and the organizational needs. So what we want to do is jump straight in. So for the first one, how do you go about defining technical and soft skills that are crucial for various tech roles within your organization? Dawie, do you want to kick us off?
Thanks, Nicholas. Yeah, so like I said, we just started the process, or not started the process, we've just implemented it, where we have gone and re-looked at how do we assess individuals. And the funniest thing is I always tell myself, I've been in so many interviews where I sit there and it's a dev manager, so I'm a quality engineer by heart, and so many times I get interviewed by dev managers because the quality manager hasn't been hired yet, or I get a text assessment and it's a developer or senior developer that's actually assessing me. And sometimes they are looking at things that is above my skill level, which I don't need for my role. So what we did is we went and had a look at each technical role within the agile teams and around the agile teams, and we went and actually analyzed what, not tools, not things like that, but what thought process and skills those individuals have. And then we thought very hard about it, about how do we go and analyze these roles. You've got models like T models and things like that. And the T model has really been taken, my opinion is a bit wrong, because the team model is actually that you need to have a specialized skill in your role, which means if I'm a quality engineer or developer, I am a full stack developer. I'm a full stack quality engineer. People then went and took that T shape and said, no, within development, I'm a front end developer. By specialization, I do some interface or platform development, and I do some front end development. But we've lost that part of we are quality engineer or software developer or a feature analyst. So what we did is we went and analyzed this and put through the skills, and then we saw what can we teach a person in a matter of weeks. I mean, tools and things like that, that's not skills. I mean, is it analytical skills? Is it paying attention to detail and all that? And then we went and created our assessments according to those soft skills.
Yeah. So you mentioned the T model. That's cool. I think the world is now identifying a W model, in which a person can have two or more specialties in certain areas. And with levels of abstractions, it's actually not that absurd. But I think you mentioned something very, very good, and this is that skills are not tools, and tools are not skills. And we actually made a deep research about what skill ontology is, and we found out that it can be a rabbit hole. We've seen ontologies of tens of thousands skills based in a tree of dependency, and then you ask yourself whether is AWS a skill, right? What does it mean? It's not, right? Is knowing Python a skill, or is applying the test-driven development a skill, right? Mm-hmm. So this is something that every company needs to really look deep into and start before you start filling up your job description with buzzwords, right? And understand really to analyze the landscape of the existing capabilities of your team and larger organization to see what are the gaps and where do you want to take this team forward, right? And then decide what is a skill. So given that, when we identified so many deviations in that direction, we actually kind of made some research with our IO psychology department and created what's called the ESM, that's engineering skill model. And our approach was like, okay, we see that modern engineering is not just coder, right? It's not a person who writes code. It's not a programmer, but it is more of a combination of technical, collaborative skills, which are more interpersonal skills, and also problem-solving skills. And this creates like a round shape of that individual. But then you don't go into splitting those areas into 10,000 different skills. You need to choose what is specifically important for you as the base one. What is important for your organization for this role. And I think using some standardized model helps you to make this thinking process for every individual role you need to hire. And one of the mistakes that we see that people try to apply the same set of skills for every role that they look for, right? But no, unfortunately, it's not that easy, right?
But Ilya, is that not maybe the misunderstanding of the hiring managers of what is that role? Because I've seen it a lot of times as well, even in our environments. A lot of people would create a space for a new developer or something, and they don't understand what the expectation is of that role. They just they need the one, and then they create this generic almost skills based from the just company, and then tries to hire for that individuals.
Yeah, of course. And this is the easy way out, right? You actually go online and you copy paste someone else's job description. I think we all done this in the past, right? This is really not the way if you want to approach the skill-based hiring and skill-based talent management that the world is coming to. The goal is to have a full picture of your current organization, and your current organization can be as small as a group or as a large of the whole tech or the whole company, and then understand what is missing and how do you enable the team, because we kind of moving away from looking at individuals and we're looking at teams more, right? So the team is a unit. And we acknowledge the fact that people are now part of the team more than they are individual contributors, and this forces us to analyze the team as a unit, right? So we cannot skip that phase, and I think the responsibility here lies both on the hiring managers and talent acquisition. I would even say that currently deriving the skills from the description is more akin to a product discovery process. Right? So I would even say that talent acquisition, as the owner of the whole process, usually end to end, should be involved in this and really making sure that together with the hiring manager, they do this intake, not just to understand from which companies you need to poach people, right? But to really define, is this the skill you're looking for, right? And helping each other will bring us to that level of clarity.
So on my side as well, I tend to build teams on expectations of each individual. Yes, you're talking about teams, and we're working in team environments these days. But we tend to never, when we hire additional, it's more about the load on a certain skill in that team. And instead of going and seeing what is the gaps also in that team, meaning that I have got a very strong person in this capability in maybe front end or development, or I've got a platform developer that is brilliant in DevSecOps as well. So I don't need to hire for those skills. We tend to just look at the role we want to hire for instead of looking at the team and looking at what is the gaps, the skills, the expectations that I need for somebody to come and augment this team to make them amazing, the better, and to fill those gaps that the rest doesn't have. And this is the biggest thing that we're also doing is we analyzing when we went into this process of analyzing the teams and hiring for the teams, we went and said, okay, cool, what types of roles do we need, and what is all the skills, and what do we have that we can fill into those gaps, and what is the gaps? And then we went and specifically for those roles, we actually assigned roles, because it's like Ilya said as well, each individual is an individual. They have strengths, yes, they've got weaknesses. It doesn't help I go and assess them as a character that needs to be perfect in everything, because it will never happen. But you need to look at what is the specific things that I need for the role, and then also how do I test for it? How do I assess for that?
Yep, and again, just to remind, I think one of the flaws of this process would be to find an easy way and just name a tool or a language.
Yes.
And in many cases, I mean, languages come into categories, right? And if you're looking for someone working in Java, it doesn't mean you need a person who knows Java, right? You need a person who understands the OOP concepts of the third generation language, and they will be able to adapt within several days, I would say, even or maybe a couple of weeks if they are senior enough. Look for that understanding. That is the skill, not knowledge of Java.
And I mean, we've got so many assisting tools these days that can help us. An individual walking in and it's from Java, let's say, to C#, you can learn very quickly because you've got things like Copilot, GitHub Copilot, you've got things like ChatGPT and stuff that these guys can literally, if they know what they need to ask for, they can immediately see it. And especially for me as well, I don't know all the languages, but I mean, if you look at the different languages, I can read other languages and understand the code built and how it's built and stuff like that, which is what you actually look. I asked the question yesterday at the strategical session as well. How do we test for logic? Because that is the most important skill that I want. I want logic. I want somebody to look at something, a problem, and be able to utilize the tools that there are to actually be able to solve that problem. So with the designs that we've done as well is to see if we can test logic. Like you said, Ilya, about psychological thought processes and things. And yes, people don't like these big assessments and stuff, but I tend to just use them as, you know what, I'm measuring myself and see where the gaps are so that I can train for the next one, and upskill myself and build my personality or my how I am as a person and in a career wise. I use interviews and things like that to actually go and learn what I don't know about myself.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned logic. So logic is one part of the problem-solving skills, but it's not the only one. But it is important to you, then it is important to you. And in fact, I think when we do technical assessment, we need to offer the candidate, in this case, the variety of ways to implement the solution to the logical problem. We can't tell them to use a specific tool because this is not the skill we're assessing. Right? We're assessing logic. So practically what we do in our tool, we offer a variety of languages. So choose whatever you want, okay, and whatever you feel comfortable with, to provide us a solution for that particular logical problem. And I think
maybe sorry, Dawie, maybe just whilst we're on the topic there, I was wondering, how do we get the stakeholders involved in actually creating these assessments? Because we're going a little bit into the detail of the assessment. We take it one step back. Like, how do we get the right people there involved in this process?
So the way I went about it is I did an assessment. So I first looked at the skill levels and things like what we needed, and that what we just say don't do, I generalized it. But then I did a generalized analysis of the individuals within my organization, and I saw where the gaps was. And that's where I went to the stakeholders and I said, listen, look at this. We are hiring multiple people, but this is where the skills levels are of the individuals we're hiring. Because the funniest thing is, the first thing that any hiring manager does is he says, I need 5 years experience. And I go like, guys, I've seen people. I always tell the story of Jan. Jan had 20 years of experience and he was a junior. And when I said to him, listen, let me help you, let me upskill, because that's one of my passions, is to enabling individuals to grow themselves. I was like, let me help you. And he went like, why? I'm like, we can teach you some stuff and you can become a team leader. You can upskill in these tools. And he's like, no, I like being a junior. I like my salary. I've got 5 years, 7 years left before I retire. I don't want to go. Now, is that person a senior? No, he isn't. It's the way you think about things, the way you approach certain problems, the experience that you've built up over the years, that makes you the difference between seniors. But you could also have sat in the same desk doing the same thing for the last 20 years, and still you're not a senior, you're still a junior. And that is the problem. Every hiring manager puts that, the first thing they want is the years. Then they look at certifications. Have you done ISTQB? Have you done AWS? Have you done... I mean, I can sit and do those courses like this, and it's worth nothing to me. I can have no knowledge of it or implementation of it. And that's how you get to get the stakeholders involved. You need to show them what is the gaps, what is the problem that you're trying to solve. And the problem we're trying to solve is to show people that can come in to innovate and to actually be able to take the tools that they've got, like Ilya said, any language, anything, with some governance. We don't want to just go rogue because, I mean, these days there is so many languages and stuff. So we try and give them guidelines and things like that, but to give them the capability and enabling them to shine in the role that they're supposed to be in.
Yeah, so I would add a business perspective to it. So stakeholders are, in some cases, are not technical. So sometimes we need to speak with them in their language. And this is one of the biggest parts of my job as a CTO, is liaising between the technical domain and the business domain. And I think in order to move to skill-based hiring and having the proper investment in the proper assessment, finding the right people, you need to speak in the business language. And the business language is the cost of development. And that is the biggest thing. So you need the right skill to be applied to the right place in order to progress in the right direction. An idea of a highly performant engineering organization is continuously reduce the cost of development of the new functionalities that bring value to your customers, hence money. One of the indicators of good hire is the speed of onboarding. This is something to look at and understand. So I have a rule in my organization that from the moment the person receives a machine, they need to contribute to the code within 1 day. And this contribution can be anything. You change a text file, but this gives me an indicator that you have your setup done in 1 day. You have access to everything. You have all the tokens in place. You have all the tools deployed. And then I want to see a significant contribution to the code within the next week. So practically, this is a good indicator. If the person cannot do that, it's not because maybe they are not competent enough, but maybe the hire was wrong. We assessed the wrong thing, right? We put a wrong person for the wrong task, and then we do not set them up for success. Things like that can be easily transferable to metrics and to financial metrics that can be a base for your conversation with the stakeholders. So the productivity, I mean, we can go for days speaking about developer productivity, right, and not agree at the end. But if you can translate it into the cost of development of new functionality and the delay of the release of the new value for your customer, this is the way to take the stakeholders into your domain to make them understand what you're trying to achieve.
So I think with that, we can move over to designing accurate and role-specific technical assessments, specifically with that role-specific assessment, what I want to focus on here. So why is it important for technical assessments to be tailored to a specific responsibilities or challenges for this role?
Well, I think we touched on this.
I also think we've covered a bit of it.
We touched on this. I mean, it's about loss, right? Having the wrong person on the wrong role, not aligned with their comfort zone, not aligned with their development plans, not aligned with their expectations of what they're going to do, because this is what candidates derive from the assessment. They think, okay, is this what I'm going to do? And hence we have those absurd reverse the binary tree things, right, and jokes running around. So yeah, that's extremely important to really tie the assessment to the role you're hiring. And every new role, new assessment.
Yeah. The strangest thing is as well, Ilya, I'm just thinking about that. We focus so much on building the assessment of the candidate, but we never look at what, if we do interviews and stuff, has the people reviewing those inputs or the actual feedback or the results, are they capable of actually understanding what the roles are? I've been so many startups, especially in startups, that happens, where you've got a development manager hiring for a quality engineer, and his knowledge about quality engineering is literally like this big, and in situations I would urge the people to get specialists to come in and design that role and that assessment for that individual with the knowledge. Don't a CTO or CEO don't try and go and hire a dev manager, because you might just get a person that talks the talk and gives you the big acronyms and you didn't understand half the acronyms, and he sounds smart. But if you actually put him in an environment where he needs to go and have a look at how do we take the products forward, how do we do design principles, how do we do the development process cycles and things like that, how do we... He might not be able to do any of those. So if you want to hire, don't just look at the assessments, but look at the panel that is reviewing these assessments as well, because that needs to be technical skilled people as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, I know it's a shameless plug, but this is exactly what we are doing for engineering. Not for managerial roles, but for engineering. We're providing a very structured and unbiased way of assessing technical skills based on the test that you create. Now, the test can have several tasks in it, very short ones, okay, that are hitting to specific skills that you have created. And we are working with our customers to build those tests together and make sure that they are inclusive, that they are really hitting the right spot. And we provide the report that is very detailed about how this person did. And the scoring is very transparent. So that allows a structured comparison, right, between candidates. But I totally agree with you about the panel that reviews those results. If platforms like ours is not used, then you practically have a result that is given to interpretation of the person who is looking at it. And I also completely agree with you about hiring technical managers. And so we in Codility, definitely, we put everybody up to the kind of VP level through a system design interview with the architect. And they brainstorm on a whiteboard or maybe in a pseudocode and work on concepts that this person will be required to be an arbiter in, right? So yes, I agree with you. Those who assess are part of the solution and problem.
Let's from there maybe go to the different types of technical assessments that you guys use.
So I could say from a customer's perspective, what we've designed now is we looked at three different things. So we looked at the person's psychological skills. So we tend to use a tool that actually looks at his growth capability, his analytical skills, his or his actual skills in, like I said, logical solutioning and out of the box thinking. We then looked at theoretical. So yes, it is. I hate those tests, but it is actually a bit valuable and to see the theoretical, which you've got these ABC questions. It's very quick and very fast. And then we went for a full practical. So there we actually give short practical scenarios, not from our company. So anybody that's applying to us is not actually solving something in my business. I'm never using that code again. It is just test demo sites in the world. And we ask specific things around those things for the individual to do. If it is a developer, we tend to ask them to, we give them a piece of code and we'll say, okay, please add this to it, or go and change this to, but it's literally like a coding interface where the individual can then actual code. And what happens in the background, I know we're touching later on and we're jumping all around it, but what we are doing is the assessment of all these tools are done by AI. So we've taken the ethical capability from a person looking and reviewing, just like I said now to you as well, and Ilya and Nicholas, about me sitting there, and I might not even have that skills, because sometimes I hire individuals that actually adds a gap that I even have, because I want to learn from them as well. And the thing is how do I assess that person if I haven't learned it? So we tend to ask AI to assess these individuals, and then due to their wording that they use, how they talk, what level they talk at, there is actually simple or not simple, but a lot of thought process gone into building matrices around how do you apply this, and how do we evaluate this answer or solution the person has actually given us. And so yes, that's we've used those three different sections that we've actually looked at.
A comment about AI, because you brought it up, Dawie. So the legislation is kind of catching up with everything that AI have introduced, and starting with what's called the New York City law and what's coming with the EU AI Act. And there's quite a significant limitation on using AI systems to assess people. So assessing people, so it might assist you, but it cannot make a decision.
No. So it never makes a decision.
Yeah.
It assesses the person's code capability and stuff and gives me feedback on the metrics that I gave it. Yeah. So I'm not asking the AI, listen, what level is this person? It is literally looking at and giving me feedback on that person. And then me as a hiring manager still needs to go through that assessment. And it's not just the AI. So the AI is more for the practical part, because I have spent many days, and if I hire, I get about 400 people that apply to go through everybody's code and to see if there's capabilities and stuff. So this summarizes it, and then we look at but you still have the human interaction. We'll always have that.
So as a vendor, and I'm a vendor, I'm getting under security questionnaires a lot, and there's a hesitance of usage of AI tools for assessment, because people need to be also compliant to their local laws. Something to pay attention to as the legislation changes very, very dynamically. So about the types of assessment, so I think there are kind of two major types of assessments, and this one is like what the alternative or the home test, right? So you give a person a task, and the person does it in their spare time. Which is something how Codility came to be 12 years ago. And we provide all the proctoring and all the kind of the signaling around that implementation of a solution. And then what we see right now, and I think what everybody sees is that the home test is losing its relevance slowly but surely, right? Because of AI, and also because if you hire senior people, they are reluctant to spend their time on those things, right? They have their own, GitHub repos or contribution to open source, and look at that, and you will see what I do, right? So the other type of assessment, which I believe is going to take prevalence in everything related to senior hiring, is a collaborative creation. And this is something that we also offer as part of our platform. And this is a situation in which you have a collaborative IDE that everybody is connecting to and can emulate a pair programming session. And you have an AD capabilities as part of it, of course, and you can use this for everything. You can use it to create a solution for a problem that has been parachuted on the participants. You can have more than one person, candidate, your staff engineer, and someone else. You can have an AI playing a PM role, for example, if there is a requirement to create some new feature. But one of the most interesting tasks that we've seen and we advocate for is optimization, because that covers a lot for people. So you put a ready-made piece of code in front of people. You add your staff engineer or senior engineer as interviewer. You add the candidate, and you work together. You ask them to work together on optimizing this code for specific conditions that should be relevant for what this person is going to be doing in day-to-day job, because otherwise, again, we are missing the skills. So this type of interview not only allows you to see how people write code, but how they interact with others. How do they create lobby for their ideas, right? How do they defend their principles? How do they receive feedback and give feedback? Because this session is about pairing, and then you can also identify then how those people are going to be matching the culture in the team I want to put them in, because cultural fit is a mystery, right? I mean, there's a lot of things written about it, okay, but eventually it boils down to a hunch of someone who does the culture fit interview, okay? And in this case, you can actually check whether this person is going to be a good addition from communication and interpersonal skills. So those are the two biggest types of assessments that we see in use. Now, the first one with the home test can be in different variations. It can be through platforms like Codility. It can be a GitHub repo that is just forked for a candidate and they submit, right? And they commit. So the first one is more of a pre-filtering. When you have a lot of candidates for a role, it's kind of good. But I think the pair programming session is the one that's going to give you the best results.
Thanks, Ilya.
I've got a question for Ilya. Sorry, Nicholas.
Cool.
Ilya, so we are battling, and I've noticed it in the last 10 years, with a lot of individuals saying, I don't want to do this. I don't want to sit and do a 2-hour assessment or an hour assessment. I mean, and the weirdest thing is the thought process that's going through me is that I might be wrong. It's my half personal opinion. Don't quote me on this, but is that not showing me that if I give him a task at work, will he actually want to do this, or is he just going to tell me, I don't want to? Because I've grown up in the age, in the era where, you know what, if I had to do a 4-hour assessment to get a job because I want to pay the bills, I do a 4-hour assessment. And like I said before, I use that. I don't see it as I'm losing 4 hours. I'm actually seeing it as they are going to come. I never go to an interview or assessment and walk away there and say, you know what, you were unsuccessful. Okay, great. I'm unsuccessful. Next one. I always go back and say, please tell me where I lacked.
Yes.
Which skills I lacked, which area was lacking, so that I can grow myself, my package that I sell to people. Now, if you come with your tool, Ilya, to me and say, listen, we want to help you with this tool to assess your individuals, and I say to you, please show me a demo. and you say no, am I going to use you as a consultant, or am I just going to say to you, okay, then you're not trusting your own product, please leave, I'll go to the next one. And that is the thing that I'm battling with. So I want to hear your thoughts about it.
Sure. So I think it's not as binary. So there's a lot of things in place. First of all, I didn't hear anyone refusing to take the assessment from Google.
No, not at all.
Right?
Oh, we're losing you.
Yeah.
But on Google, everybody wants to work for Google.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the point that Ilya was trying to make.
So
like there's a few things that goes into it.
Here, I'm back. Can you hear me, Simi?
Yeah,
yes,
we lost
you
at
Google.
Yeah, so people don't refuse taking.
I think let's park that question. I think it's going to be a tough one, very opinionated one on all of the reasons why. Whilst Ilya takes a moment to get back to us, I'm really keen to talk about Dawie. How often do you guys review your assessments?
So we review it on a monthly. Every time there's a new role, we review it. We tend to actually. So the thing is we've got a rule on ours, because I've got like multitude of questions. I had an interview with a person, I think 2 days back, and the funniest thing is I asked him one question. And after that one question, I told him the process of how I analyzed his thought process, his skills. I never touched on a tool at all. I said to him, he was like fluttered. He said to me, but how, you didn't even ask me about what languages do I write code in? You didn't ask me, have I ever done AWS? I'm like, I can teach you that. I can teach API to an individual in an hour. That is not the problem that I have. The problem that I have is, do I have individuals that fits the team's dynamic and actually are able to, like Ilya said, contribute to the team? The contribution to the team is not just code. It's also sitting and listening and actually hearing a situation where you can put input. And that is the biggest thing. You can learn the tools and things like that. But we change our assessments often. As soon as we realize, like, oh, now everybody's scoring 90, we tend to put up the bar a bit. As soon as we see that, listen, we've gotten enough people that is now outspoken in the team, we need to look at people that's more not so outspoken, people that is more focused on the code. We tend to, like I said, every time there's a new role going out, we try to actually look at our assessments again for that role.
Thanks, Ilya. We're just talking about like inconsistencies, and I'm quite interested to know like feedback from candidates. Do you guys incorporate this at all in
Yes.
the assessments that you have?
Give me one sentence for the previous question.
From Google.
No, I think it is.
Now we've lost him again. I'm going to say Google a lot.
Maybe you could take the question, Dawie. Like the candidate feedback, do you guys use that at all to further improve your assessments?
Yes. So what we do is like I said, so the hiring manager gets a full report. That doesn't just mean just the hiring manager needs to get it. It also means that, you know what, the person candidate, it's his answers, his questions, give him feedback. So we tend to send a report back to the individual to say, listen, this is where your strengths are, this is why, and this is the reason that you did not make this. We actually use the same assessment tools for growth purposes in our organization. So it doesn't just mean that you was successful in the hiring. We also tend to say, listen, you need to actually now use this data to continue growing yourself and see where the gaps are and retake the assessments and things like that, so that you continue growing yourself.
Awesome, that's really good. And then just lastly on like standardization, do you have any step-by-step guides or something that you use, frameworks perhaps to ensure there's some consistency or standardization for these assessments?
Sorry, the question again, I'm just getting called tremendously on the side.
Sorry, you want me to repeat it? So it's
Yes.
what frameworks or guidelines do you follow to standardize technical assessments? Do you perhaps have some step-by-step guide that you follow?
So like I said, we went and we first analyzed. We analyze what we expect from the role. We then go and we, like I said before, we use the three categories. An individual is, it's not as simple as just saying the three categories. There's a lot involved in each part of that categories, but we tend to focus on the individual's emotional skills and things like that, like I said, the analysis parts. And then we focus on the technical knowledge, which means is when we speak in a room, will this individual understand the concepts and things that we are talking about, and not be lost in that scenario. And the third and last one will be the practical implementation. So can this person take a problem and solve it? Like Ilya said, not with a certain language or something. We open the languages up and say you can code in any language that you want. There's limits to it. There is so many, but these are a set of languages. Pick one of them, and it's mostly the majority languages in the world. And we say, okay, go try and solve this problem. It's not a hackathon thing. It is literally like a real world scenario rather than a hackathon. Try and analyze or solve the weirdest frequency calculation, and sometimes it's the problem that's actually hindering the person from actually completing it rather than his capabilities in what he's doing.
Okay, let's go on. We touched on AI a little bit earlier, and I'm sure everybody is really keen for us to talk about this. So are there any practical steps that people can take to integrate AI into the technical interview process?
I think AI, I understand why people are hesitant in AI assessing you. I will be hesitant in if AI assesses me, because I've got flaws. The thing is how we implement it in assessing individuals. We don't implement it in saying a yes or a nay. We are saying, go and look at the characteristics of code. Coding even has a fingerprint. The way a person structures a method, the way he designs his integration between the various methods and things like that. It has a pattern, and you could see that pattern if you go and, with my experience, and I'm just talking from experience. I'm not an expert on this field. I just talk how I implemented it, and my opinion. And the biggest thing is like you could see how individuals, especially for like I'm the quality manager or for quality, I can see if a person speaks, if he answers a question in text, plain text, I can see if this person is a junior, intermediate, or senior. And it is the way he's approaching the answer, the words that he uses, the way he's actually thinking at the problem's solution. So is he thinking at a strategical point of view? Is he thinking at just taking that problem and solving it at that moment? Now with AI, that we can do. We're still giving it the rubrics and everything to say, listen, these are weighted more than others. These are, look for these specific things in the answer and everything like that. And what it does is it comes back and gives me a description. So what we've implemented is it will give me a short paragraph around each question. We've just got 5 questions in our assessment from a practical perspective, and it's short and easy to finish. But then, so what it does is it takes that part and analyzes that and tells me the person had a great experience in looking at the solution from an enterprise architectural point of view. He looked at code reusability and things like that, which I would go and sit and if I review the code, we tested this on about I think it was 150, 200 candidates, and every person's code that I and various senior individuals in our organization reviewed without knowing what the AI is actually returned was exactly the same. Not even a drop difference, which means is if I said I can look at this code and you know what, this person did not use this coding structure, he didn't use variables, he didn't go and actually do this correctly, the AI came back with exactly the same thing. So with cost saving and stuff, I mean, and to give quicker feedback to individuals that's applied for positions, it is just, I mean, AI can run through 200 people and give me the answer immediately. The model is built, yes, by us, by saying, listen, look at these aspects of this, the answer and everything around it.
Okay. I'm interested to know if you guys allow AI, like how do you balance the use of AI with the human input during this technical interview?
Yes. So I this actually happened. It's a practical, and I wanna tell you what my feeling is. If I sit in an interview and I interview you, Nicholas, and I ask you a question and you type the question into AI or into Google and give me an answer, am I interviewing you or am I interviewing Google? Could I have just sat there and actually asked the question to Google and saved both of us a bit of time? I appreciate a person's honesty in saying to me, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what the answer is to the question, but I think it's this. And he's completely wrong, but I see his thought process. Like I'm going to tell you the question that I ask in interviews, and I've got a few more, but I ask a question about an elevator. And the use of an elevator, a person using an elevator. And the funniest thing is I test various capabilities in various types of testing, his thought process, his everything around it. And the funniest thing is, do you know how many people I've seen to try and Google that question? And there is no such question. It came from me. I designed that question in a certain way so that we can ask that question. But a lot of people are trying to Google and give me an answer. And a lot of people got to an answer using probably AI. And the first thing I would ask them is to say, okay, cool, you got the answer. How did you get to it? And then it's like, now,
I think if I can just interrupt there, we obviously understand if we're going to someone to type in the question, put it in like an AI, get an AI feedback for. But I'm actually thinking the people out there really like to know like your views on like AI supported tools, and like you mentioned, there was the use of Copilot when there's maybe a technical assessment they have to do. Like, how do you guys work with that? What are your views on
that? I'll try to speak. There was someone mentioned there was a perfect freeze frame. If someone can took a snapshot, please share it. It would be nice. But you can. So about AI, so your question is about using of AI assisting tools during part of the assessment. So I can speak about two type of customers that we have. So in fact, we offer a type of AI assistant as part of our platform. It has an open AI interface in the backend, but what we see is very two different opinions. There are people who still consider using AI assistants as cheating, and they are really pushing us and platforms like ours to create AI detection tools, and really provide them an information about whether there is a suspicion or probability that this candidate used AI. And there is other type of customer saying, you know what, this person is going to do it anyway every day. Okay, so all I want to do is to know that they used it, and I will ask them directly if they're going to use it, right? And I'm perfectly okay with using it. So I think there is a shift from the more traditional ones that are usually non-tech organizations. They're mostly financial, banks and insurances, and towards more kind of pure tech companies that accept the fact that AI assistants are now a valid tool in the toolbox of every developer.
Okay. But Ilya, the thing is, yes, we use these tools. I mean, AI is a tool, and I fully agree. In my organization, I don't give access to juniors and intermediates access to these tools. I'm sorry. The reason for that is for them to use that tools to accelerate their productivity. They still need to learn the basics. They still need to go through the process of learning, listen, how do I analyze this code? How do I solve this problem with code? Or how do I look at this problem and analyze it myself? If we start and say, okay, cool, but AI is available for everybody and they can use it whenever, how would we learn the hard concepts, the things that makes us into a senior in person, a person with experience? I call it the sound bar, and I hope I'm not giving my age away, but the sound bar situation where I used to sit and try to get my sound bar to work on my PC. And there was no Google, get a driver and install a driver. You had to go into those files and update it. These days, I sit and I look at code and I can immediately see gaps. I look at interfaces or a process, a business process, and I can immediately tell you where it's broken. And that experience you're not going to get by asking Google or AI the whole time to solve the issues for you.
But here's the thing, and I will be really opinionated about it. A person does not create code in seclusion.
No.
So wait, stay with me. There are, even in trunk-based development, there are pair programming, there are review sessions, right? And there's no AI tool out there that will give you a really perfect solution to a problem that you're trying to solve, right? So introducing those engineering practices in which code review is synchronous, in which pair programming is happening, in which mentoring programs are in place, okay, and in which people can use AI for generating boilerplate code for that they then adapt for solution of their problems relevant to their task in the conventions that were agreed upon between people in that organization, as part of pair programming, as part of senior reviewing your code together with you, they will learn. Okay, what I'm saying is that the fact that you deny them access from it doesn't mean they don't use it.
I'm not saying denying access, they're not going to use it. They will use it in their career. I'm just saying, if I take an intern from university, I do not want AI to write his code for him, because I can't see where his gaps are. I am getting Copilot's gaps, because that also has gaps. I spend a lot of time on ChatGPT and Copilot and stuff. And you know how much time I spend actually just correcting the poor fellow, because he's giving me basic answers that doesn't solve the problem that I'm looking for. And that's the problem. If we give juniors I'm not saying nobody uses AI. I'm full for it, because it increases productivity to tenfold. But I want to then, let's say this, I want to assess the person's capability of using AI tool, not if I've got a question for him that the AI answers that question, because then everybody will be a senior, hopefully, if AI is smart enough.
Beautiful. So using this tool, just like you use other tools, is something that can be assessed, okay, especially as part of the assessment. And again, I'm falling back to our platform, right? We can measure and identify how people use our assistant, okay, and what prompts they ask and how they approach iteratively to what they ask. Right, so that's a skill. If a customer wants to know this, that's available, right? But, what I said, that people will, if you don't give them access, they will. Doesn't mean they don't use it. I would say that you don't even know if they use it now, right, for their personal accounts, which would be probably also a security gap, because probably your licenses internally are enterprise grade, and you have an illusion that you have a privacy and you're not training other people's models, right? But if they use their private account, $10 for Copilot, okay, then you're breached. So I'm more in line with give this thing in, but foster the engineering practices that help people grow.
Thanks, Ilya. We knew this was going to be a spicy take, and thank you everyone for bringing the spice. I really want us to get to some of the questions that the audience have asked. So first question up, Joseph wants to know, what AI platform are you using for these assessments? If not custom written, can a link be shared, please?
So I wish I could. I did ask the organization that helped us create this AI platform if we could. I can't at this time actually share this platform. Sorry. It is still in development phases and everything around it. I'm sure it will probably come out soon.
Looks like there's something to look forward to then. Okay, second one, Trevor asks Ilya, it sounds like your focus has been to hire for the gap. It stands to be corrected. How do you become qualified to assess for those skills, given it is a gap? Hopefully I'm not jumping the gun here.
Yeah, so gap is one of the results of analysis, right? Imagine you are leading a team, right? And you have a certain composition within the team that is making this team highly performant and independent, because that's what you want. You want empowered teams that can run with low amount of coupling, low amount of dependencies. You want to follow Conway law and Brooks law that will allow you to build proper, high performing teams. And then you also have the strategic view of where are you going. You have your roadmap, you have your ideas, you see how technology is going to change in the next 6 to 12 months in the use of this team. So those are types of gaps you should aim for. Now, how do you test for those gaps is a question I think Dawie is also flagged, saying that panel needs to know what they're looking for. So again, automated platforms like ours can allow you to select the tools, select the tasks that are relevant for the technology that you don't even have. And we can provide you a structured report on how this person did. But we don't replace a proper assessment. We help you to make a decision, right? So yes, in some cases, you will need to find an external expert that will help you. For example, if I would be hiring an individual that will introduce a completely novel discipline or a function in my organization, which I'm not really, I'm not an expert at all. Okay, I would actually seek a consultant that will help interviewing with me, and that I will actually pay that person to make sure that we make the right assessment, and this person will help me to build a proper assessment for the candidate for that role, right? And I will learn from there. So I encourage everybody to use that and acknowledge your vulnerability, or acknowledge the gap not only in the team you have, but also in yourself.
Very valuable advice there. The cost of a hire is not necessarily just the time in hiring the person, but once you've hired them, there's a cost there to pay as well. So very, very valuable advice.
I always say the impact of hiring a manager is the worst of all. Because if I hire a manager and I haven't checked his skills of hiring the next, I've got a compound effect. Because he's going to hire the next according to his skills. And the next is those people are going to hire the next on their skills. If I don't have the skills to assess this individual, get somebody to do it for you, to assist you. I'm not saying culture fits and things like that. Yes, do that yourself. But the technical capabilities and the person's capabilities to provide the expected outcome from his role to the team, let the professionals come in and actually hire them, and then continue forward.
Thank you, everyone. Those are the questions we'll answer today. So again, this has been amazing. It's the end of our webinar. We've covered a lot of ground, and hopefully our audience feels enabled to level up their own technical assessments. Special thank you to both Ilya and Dawie. Really appreciate you
Always a pleasure.
Time for us. And everyone, have a lovely Friday's Eve.
Thank you so much. Apologies for the
Bye, Nicholas. Nice seeing you again, Ilya. Bye.